The O'Reilly Factor is on tonight.
It shouldn't be about having heads roll or firing people.
The problems with Obamacare continue to mount, and now public opinion may be shifting.
The president says he's bringing in the best and the brightest to solve the problem. Why didn't we bring in the best and the brightest in the first place?
Tonight, Senator Marco Rubio puts forth his solution.
You do have the right to health care and to education and to decent housing.
The gloves are off as the far left now pushing for complete socialism. We'll spell that out in the Talking Points memo.
Indian mascots and logos are harmful to all of our children, and it's time to remove this kind of stereotyping.
And the Washington Redskins controversy still red hot, so to speak. We'll hear the team's point of view.
Caution, you are about to enter the no spin zone. The Factor begins right now. Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. Here comes socialism. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. With Obamacare descending into chaos, the president and the Democratic Party are in a perilous place right now. Americans are starting to figure out that the government-controlled healthcare industry is likely to be a nightmare on many fronts. So why won't the feds fix the situation before imposing it on we the people? The answer is that Obamacare is just part of a vision for the forced sharing of American assets. The strategy is largely kept quiet, but there have been hints.
The great civil rights issue of our time, and that is the need for every man, woman, and child to have health care as a right and not a privilege.
I believe health care is a civil right.
Although health care was not listed per se in the Constitution, it should be a constitutional right.
You do have the right to health care and to education and to decent housing.
Ms. Perry's point of view is a socialist communist vision that the state should provide all citizens a certain lifestyle at the expense of other citizens. If health care is a constitutional right, then everything associated with good health would fall into the civil rights category. So your entire environment, house, food, clothing, transportation, mental health, would all have to be paid for by the state if you could not afford it. That's a form of communism because no country could afford those payments without seizing the assets of everybody else. It's impossible. Right now, the USA has a debt of $17 trillion and growing. Some of that debt is because of wars, but most of it is providing entitlements and infrastructure, things like roads, water, police protection. And we Americans pay taxes to have those things. But here in the USA, there is a subculture of people who are uneducated, unskilled, and or have mental health problems like addiction. Those people cannot or will not provide for themselves. And that situation is growing. In order to provide for the have-nots, the far left wants the federal government to seize the assets of solvent Americans. That's what Obamacare is all about, taking from those who can afford health care to provide to those who cannot. No matter what the reason for the insolvency is, it doesn't matter. By the way, the emergency room situation where hospitals are mandated to treat anyone who walks in for free, that's not going to stop under Obamacare. That expense, estimated to be $4.5 billion a year, will just be added on to the colossal cost of the Affordable Health Care Act. Ironic, isn't it? Talking Points believes that most Americans don't understand what the deuce is going on in this country. Slick politicians on both sides can easily obscure the truth. But the truth is that the USA, at this point in time, can't afford to pay for Obamacare unless working Americans give up more of their assets, in some cases, much more. And that's a memo. Now for the top story tonight. The Factor has been suggesting that President Obama delay the individual mandate to buy government-run health insurance for 1 year. That because of all the confusion. Joining us from Miami, Senator Marco Rubio, who will introduce a bill to delay the individual mandate. So what is that bill going to look like, Senator, and when are you going to do it?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, Bill. It's pretty straightforward. It's unfair that, on the one hand, you're telling people that if they don't buy insurance next year, the IRS is going to come after them with a fine. So it's unfair to say that to them and then turn around and make it so difficult or impossible for them to buy that health insurance. So what the bill would basically say is that the Obamacare website has to be up and functioning for 6 consecutive months before they can begin to enforce this individual mandate on people. How can you punish people for not buying something that's impossible to buy because of these the inability of this website to function because of government incompetence?
How do you see this bill coming out? I would imagine every Republican senator would vote for it, but are you going to be able to peel off some Democrats to do that? Maybe Manchin of West Virginia would do it, but I don't know anybody else.
Well, I think they're going to have to do this no matter what, and it's a question of when they're going to finally admit to that. Now, look, I actually don't think this is a partisan thing. I think no matter how you may feel about Obamacare, I certainly would like to see it repealed and replaced. Others may disagree. But no matter how you may feel about Obamacare, this is not about that. This is about the fact that it is unfair that you're going to punish people, that you're going to send the IRS after people.
Now, will your bill contain the provision that if you want to sign up for Obamacare now, you certainly can? It's just that you don't have to and you don't be punished. So that gives everybody the option of, yeah, I'll do it or I won't do it. And as you said, when they get the glitches out of the software so that people can efficiently decide what they want to do, then you can do the mandatory deal. That is fair.
Yeah, that's it.
But politics being as it, and what I said is true. It's not about Obamacare. You know that, Senator. This is about the whole entitlement culture. It's a much bigger thing.
Right. The issue of Obamacare is about a much broader agenda to inject more government control over our lives and over our economy. But I'm dealing right now with a very focused issue. For example, I'm going to give you an example. On this very day in Florida, it was announced that 300,000 people are going to lose their individual coverage because of Obamacare. Now, those people next year, they don't have health insurance. They're going to owe the IRS money in the form of a fine. Where are they supposed to go now and buy that health insurance if the website isn't working, if Consumer Reports is telling people to avoid the website? So what this bill does is it says basically this: until that website is certified to be functioning, you cannot enforce this on people.
Okay,
it's simply not fair.
When are you going to introduce it?
Monday. We can't introduce bills while we're not in session, but the Senate will be back on Monday, and I'll introduce it on that day.
You think Harry Reid's going to block it with no debate and no this and do those procedural things? Well, tell me, have you talked to Reid? Have you talked to his office? Does he know it's coming?
Well, what I'm going to start doing, and I've already started doing, is reaching out to some of my Senate colleagues that I think might be a little bit more open-minded about this, Democrats included, to see if I can get this to become a bipartisan thing. Because at the end, look, this is about common sense. This is about fairness. This is about keeping people from being hurt.
Get Manchin of West Virginia's name on it. Then you have, it'd be interesting to see if he has the stones, pardon the expression, to put his name on something like that, because he said he would. He said he would support it. So if you can get him, that would be, kind of, look, it's a chess game. You know what the chess game is. And this will be fascinating to see if you can get this done.
Well, we're going to give everybody a chance to be on the right side of this. Eventually, they're going to have to do something about it, because it's going to take more than a few months to fix these websites. And it's going to be unfair to go after people for not buying health insurance when the ability to buy it is not being made available. Now, here's
what I'm going to do. I'm going to invite Senator Manchin on tomorrow on a factor.
Good.
And I'm going to ask him if he'll attach his name, but I don't want to do that without. It's your bill. I don't want to, usurp your authority. Is that okay if I do that and say, would you sign up?
We need all the help we can get. We'd love to have his help, and anybody else who's watching tonight that would like to sign up in the Senate.
All right. So any other Democrats who would like to, co-sponsor this bill with the Republican side? Because you have all the Republican supporters. Nobody's not going to vote for it, and the House would pass it, as everybody knows. So it's basically you're in a struggle with the far left, the real committed left, the Harry Reid section. It'll be very interesting to see. One more question for you. We're going to do this later on the program. Did you see the polls today saying, that the Tea Party, 25% of Americans approve, 75% don't approve, and the Republican Party is not much better, maybe 32% approve. Do you think that's a real troubling situation for you guys?
These polls fluctuate. They come and go. I mean, if we lived our lives based on polls, we wouldn't be able to do anything else. The bottom line is that we have some very serious issues that this country's confronting. You've outlined some of them in your talking points memo tonight. But at the basis of all this is that the American dream as we know it, what makes our country special, it's being eroded. And we're running out of time to do something about it. And I certainly feel like people in my party are fighting on the right side of that.
All right, Senator. Keep us posted on how that bill goes on Monday. And that's a pretty interesting deal. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you, Bill.
Next on the Rundown, Crowley and Combs will respond to the question of whether Americans have a constitutional right to good health care.